candidacy to be New Jersey's next United States Senator.
The reality is I lived in a very tough neighborhood and moved into the sector of our city with the most shootings.
It ain't like he's here, because he ain't never here. Cory is never here.
Where does Booker live?
Well, I know he don't live on Hawthorne, because when I did the 2010 census and I knocked on the door and asked, introduce myself as the census taker, and I was told by the officers that that was a police station. He can't possibly live in a police station.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the third hour of the Steve Malzberg Show. That is a piece of sound that has been running, and it's been running on the internet, and it's a report that was done by a video journalist who went around to Newark by the address where Cory Booker is supposed to live, and his neighbors, as you just heard, said he doesn't live here. Joining us now is our friend Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, who we had on just, I'm trying to think, not too long ago, founder of the Jewish Values Network and a Republican, former congressional candidate, who is in support of Cory Booker, the Democratic mayor of Newark, in tomorrow's special election. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
All right, so why would a Republican who ran for a Republican seat in New Jersey just not too long ago, last election, be a supporter of a Democratic mayor of Newark as opposed to the Republican candidate for the U.S. Senate seat?
Well, how else do I get on your show? Did you have me on when I was a congressional candidate running as a Republican? Now I'm on.
I don't think I had a show at that point, but go ahead.
If you had a brother running for elected office, you would support him. Cory is more than a friend. He's like a brother to me. As you well know, he and I have been close for 21 years. I was his rabbi at Oxford University. He was my student president, even though we were an Orthodox Jewish organization, perhaps the first ever African-American Christian non-Jewish president of a major Jewish organization.
I wanted to point out when you
said
you were his rabbi, he's not Jewish.
True. You don't have to be Jewish to have a
I
rabbi.
wanted to point that out. Yeah, absolutely.
I ought to be your rabbi too.
Yeah, and I am
and you
Jewish.
are Jewish.
Yes, and I've had Shabbat dinner at your lovely home with your wonderful family and in the presence of Cory Booker.
Yeah,
this was before he was mayor of Newark.
Right.
Yeah.
Was that before he was mayor?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cory's a regular at our Friday night Shabbat dinners. He's a great lover of the Jewish people, great lover of Israel. He's been there 3 times. His father just passed away.
Yeah,
and
I know.
One of his father's
Terrible.
last wishes was to see Israel, so they went there when his father was quite ill. But I'm supporting Cory because I love him and he's my very dear friend. I know his character and I know what a special person he is. There are some things that transcend politics. I think family, friendship, these are things that do transcend politics. And we're a very partisan country, and I don't agree with all the partisanship. I do believe that we have to find solutions when it comes to working together. But that doesn't mean that I don't have a Republican identity. I don't have to agree with Cory on all his policies to believe that he's the best candidate, based on my very personal, intimate knowledge of him for more than 2 decades.
All right, so let me ask you about some of the things that have come up, not from Steve Lonigan, but as you just saw this little report here, this is a photojournalist. There was also a one done where residents of Newark said that we're dying in the streets and crime is, and he's in California. So, but first, let me ask you something was brought up by the moderator in the second debate last week.
I was there, yeah.
Okay, and that is making things up. This guy at Newark was shot, and Cory Booker said he died in my arms, and the moderator said he died in the hospital. Then there was another thing, this T-Bone character, which Booker once admitted was like a composite or a made-up character, and in the debate he said, no, he's not made up. I mean, all this, as Lonigan said, in my view, calls character into question. Why would you make things up?
And I know Cory far better than Steve Lonigan could ever know him, because I've known him for 21 years. We've studied thousands of hours of Torah together. He's been to my house countless times.
Fair enough.
Before my daughter got married 2 years ago, Cory called me and said, please choose a date when I'm not going to be in the, when I don't have a city obligation, because I can't, your kids are like my kids. I know his character extremely well. Cory is an honest, truthful person. To the extent that he's been called out on certain things, I don't know the particulars of those details because I wasn't there, but I do know countless other stories in Newark that I've witnessed myself. I visit Cory in his office as mayor all the time. There he is mentoring these children who are underprivileged. There are no cameras on him when he does that. Kids who come from very troubled background, and he's trying to be a big brother to them and trying to guide them and inspire them. I'm with him in his Suburban while he travels around Newark, and he pops out of the car and he's constantly speaking to people and really trying to lift them up, not just through his policies and his work as mayor, but as an individual, because Cory is a very inspiring person. He always has been. I think that's the reason he has a national profile.
Okay. What about the latest controversy, which I heard him asked directly about it. I heard him asked yesterday on News Radio 88 Where do you live? Never said where he lived. He said, on my Tea Party opponent, blah, blah, blah. I could play 5 more bites with 5 more people from Newark, quote-unquote neighbors of Cory Booker, that say, we never see him, haven't seen him in 3 years, he doesn't live here. They knocked at the door, there were police officers in there, but no Cory Booker. And also, he filed for the Senate with a P.O. box on his application, not an address. Have you ever been to that location in Newark where Cory Booker lives?
I have visited Cory countless times in Newark, usually at his office, because I think, in fairness to me, because we're very good friends, he knows I'm a father of 9 children, and he always comes to our home. Thank God we only live 15 minutes apart. As you said, you saw him at my house Friday night about dinner. But I have visited him countless times in Newark, and I see him there all the time, constantly.
But at his
always
home?
On the streets. Well, as I said, he visits me at my home.
Okay, so you've never been. In fairness, you've never been in his home in Newark.
Well,
is that true?
In fairness, he lived at Brick Towers for so long, and that wasn't the first place that I was going in the evenings when I have to read my kids' bedtime stories and have dinner with my kids. But to say that Cory is not intimately involved in every aspect of his city is to belie thousands and thousands of news stories that have him in the city constantly working on behalf of the residents. I find this one of the most scurrilous charges. Look, if people are opposed to Cory's policies, and even I as a Republican have take issue with some of his policies, I understand that completely, and that's what elections should be about. But notice that this kind of lacks a little bit of substance. You can look at Cory's record in Newark, you can question it, you can challenge it. I think he's done an amazing job given the challenges. This is one of the most difficult cities in the United States. It's a very tough city. The residents know it, the mayor knows it, the city council knows it, and Cory went there because of the challenge. Now, he was a Rhodes Scholar. He had limitless opportunities when he graduated from Oxford, where we were together, and when he went to Yale, but he decided to go to Newark, New Jersey. Not a lot of people would have made that decision, and here, instead of him getting praised for it, he gets condemned for it.
Well, again, and we're talking to Shmuley Boteach, Rabbi Shmuley, who, of course, author, best-selling author, many books. He's got another one coming out in December. We'll have him back for that. What's the name of that one going to be?
Kosher Lust, baby.
Kosher Lust. It's always kosher stuff. And also Michael Jackson, I wouldn't say mentor, but certainly confidant.
I was a rabbi. Like I said, you don't have to be Jewish to be a rabbi.
Okay.
Look, I took Michael Jackson to Newark, where Michael, Cory, and I gave out books to low-income families to inspire parents to read their children bedtime stories. But whoever is criticizing Cory in some of these tapes, I see the opposite. I see people who come and hug him and love him in the city of Newark because they know him so well, because he's always on the streets. He's jogging. He's meeting people.
But as far as you called the accusation that he doesn't live in Newark, or maybe not even in New Jersey, one of the most scurrilous. But, as in the debate, I could get to particulars, which you were at, which I watched on TV, when it came time for him to answer questions, he went back to the Tea Party and my opponent, divider, and didn't answer the question. And here he was asked on CBS News Radio 88, after they played Lonigan talking about it, they said, could you settle this? Where do you live? He did not answer. All he had to say was, I live on blah, blah street. I've been there. He did not say where he lives. Why?
But I find it amazing. Think about it.
But it would probably be illegal if he were mayor of Newark and didn't live in Newark. So why not just say, here's where I live?
Steve, I'm not Cory Booker.
Yeah.
I can only tell you my relationship with Cory Booker and what I've witnessed about Cory Booker.
But you call it the most scurrilous accusation that he will not defend.
Because I visit him in Newark all the time.
But not in his house.
And tens of thousands of residents
But not in his house. That's the issue.
See him, and I've been to his speeches
but
there,
not
and his lectures there, and his public events there.
Rabbi, with all due respect, you're making my point. Not at his home. For whatever reason, legitimate reasons on your part, not at his home.
Well, for all the years he lived in Brick City, he had a very tiny home.
But we're talking about
and
now.
Countless people saw him at Brick Towers,
but we're talking
which
about
was
now.
a public housing project where he had no hot water, and where the situation was really tough.
But what you call the most scurrilous accusation is not being addressed.
Here's a man who had the opportunity to accept any position in corporate America that would have made him a very wealthy man, and he could have lived in some penthouse.
He's a very wealthy man.
But he chose not to. He chose not to.
Okay.
Well, he's invited to give speeches because he's a very inspiring person. But he gives a huge amount of charity.
The law firm he worked for, which he's now getting payments, since he left, in which there were accusations that he steered business to those law firms. Some would accuse it as a quid pro quo. I'm not about that, but again, and I'm going to leave this, but
Cory's been so scrutinized by the media in this run.
Not really.
I think he really has.
Not really.
There's been a lot of stories, been a lot of negative stories, and that's part of running. Right. I think Cory knows that. I ran. I had the same kind of scrutiny. Anyone that runs knows that they're going to get that kind of scrutiny, especially Cory because he's a national figure. He has been both praised and attacked by liberal publications and by conservative publications. That's the way it is. Right. Cory is human. He's not superhuman, but he's a very special person who I saw with my own eyes back at the University of Oxford, going to housing projects, Blackbird Leys, these very poor British housing projects.
I don't doubt
working with the underprivileged when there were no votes to be had.
But you didn't see him
and
with your own eyes.
And I know the man's character, and I know what a special person he is.
But you didn't see him
much
with your
more
own,
than the media does.
But you didn't see him with your own eyes living in Newark in recent years.
I saw him at our house for Shabbos dinner all the time.
Not
and I can't drive on.
That's your house.
I can't drive on.
Okay.
I can't drive on Shabbos.
So I'm going to drop that.
You don't want me to suddenly start getting in my car on the Sabbath.
No, I do not want you to do that. We're talking to Rabbi Shmuley. We've got a few more minutes here. Let me ask you this. On the abortion issue, and you and I have talked about social issues. We've debated social issues in the past. And I say I don't want to turn this into a debate about abortion, so we'll turn it into a debate about Cory Booker's position on abortion. Steve Lonigan made the accusation at the end of that debate, which I was shocked that NBC News on their 11 o'clock news actually ran the exchange. I thought they would run away from that. So kudos to Channel 4 in New York for running that. He said, name me, because Cory Booker, they were talking about something. Cory Booker said, you want to give choice. It was about school choice. He said, give women the right to choose. So Lonigan said, name me one abortion you would ban. One. 8 months, 9 months, whatever. One. My radical Tea Party opponent, and it went on and on. So he would not name one abortion he would ban, which leads Lonigan to say, and you can't argue much because he had his chance, that he would not ban any abortion at 9 months, at 8 months, for any reason. And how do you defend that position?
Well, first of all, you can bring up anything you want in our discussion, because in the same way that I can vouch for Cory's character, I can vouch for yours. You're a very dear friend, no matter what we disagree on. I know your character, and I know that you have a very good heart, and you're a very good man. So we can always talk. We can always argue. Yeah. When I ran for Congress, I prophesied that the Republican Party would pay a terminal price for its obsession, and those are the words that I use, of what I call the social sexual obsession: abortion, gay marriage, contraception. There were other values that should have been discussed: family dinners and a year of national service, but they were all subordinate to these three sexual issues. And lo and behold, the Pope Francis gets up 3 weeks ago in a major international interview and uses the exact same terminology. That the church has to stop its obsession.
You need a lawyer
with abortion,
because he
gay
stole
marriage,
your
and
ideas.
He did.
Sue the Pope.
He must be reading my articles, Steve. So even the Pope is saying that there is more to morality, more to ethics than this. So when I saw Steve, I was at that debate. When I saw Steve Lonigan again pressing the abortion button, we can debate whether Cory's answer was correct or not. But
there was no answer.
But the larger question, obviously I'm an Orthodox Jew, so my position on abortion is going to be informed and influenced by my Orthodox Judaism.
Right.
But having said all that, is that really where the Republican Party always wants to focus on? Let me just tell you, 90% of abortions take place with single women who are inseminated by men who don't love them, don't care about them, use them, discard them. Why aren't we talking about marriage, the 50% divorce rate? Why aren't we building families? Because on the contrary, I believe that there are wider values that are influencing our culture that we never talk about. And one of the reasons that Cory has such broad national support is that he goes to these schools, high schools, and he speaks to young people about serving their country. He inspires them to see a higher message.
As he did to my son.
But when we
at his school.
You told me that, right. So, and that's a very nice thing. Cory really gets along with youth because he has the language to inspire them. But do I agree with Cory's response in that debate? I was at the debate. No, not fully, not completely. And there's going to be issues where we absolutely substantially disagree.
Right.
But when it comes to whether or not a person should be elected, I believe first and foremost it's about character, and more character. And here is a person who is a trusted public servant. I trust him completely, although I may disagree with him. And part of the thing that we have in America is that we don't trust our public servants anymore. The 9% congressional approval rating has little to do with policy and more to do with the fact that the Americans don't trust these guys. They think they're only out for themselves. But I've seen Cory's selflessness for decades.
He's going to vote yes on Obamacare. He's going to vote yes on every project Obama has. There's nothing that differs him and Barack Obama. And that's
there
a problem.
are. Of course there are.
Like
Wait
what?
a second.
Give me one. What's the
school choice? School choice and vouchers. My gosh, Cory has been one of the most courageous Democrats on school choice and vouchers, which is arguably, certainly one of the most important political issues today. Whether kids should be graduating knowing how to read and write, whether parents should have school choice.
The dropout rate in Newark is 55%. He's not been successful in 7 years as mayor.
Cory wants to bring, he doesn't control the Newark school system, let's remember, it's controlled by the state. But Cory wants to bring school choice, especially to low-income families, African-American families. He has a brother who has opened charter schools in Tennessee. We need more of them in Newark. We need more of them in New Jersey. He's a champion of it.
If I don't break, they're going to kick me off. Great seeing you. Great talking to you. Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, his book's coming out in December. We'll have him back. Website?
Shmuley.com and Twitter @Rabbi Shmuley.
There you go. On the Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax.